Greetings everyone, I'm Chris. Ever wondered about the most influential country on the global stage today? If you think of the United States, you're not alone. However, the United States, as influential as it is, has a relatively short history and was a part of Great Britain just about 250 years ago. In this video, we will explain how the United States became independent from the United Kingdom and embarked on the path to becoming a major power, and the history of the beginnings of the American Revolutionary War. If you find this video interesting, please support us by hitting the like button. Now, let's get started. Imagine this: just over a century before the Revolutionary War, British settlers embarked on a journey to a new world. As they began to settle, they encountered the indigenous tribes, who had called these lands home for millennia. The relationship between settlers and indigenous peoples was complex, marked by cooperation, conflict, and cultural exchange, laying a foundational layer to the tapestry of American history. These settlers had dual motives: establishing lucrative crops and escaping religious constraints from their homeland. The British settlers built communities, and even though these territories were under British domain, were part of the British domain, they grew with relatively little interference. That is, until a territorial dispute with France ignited tensions that shook the delicate balance. Financial pressures became a significant point of contention. To recoup their war expenditures, the British imposed various taxes on the American colonies, leading to widespread dissent and unrest. One event in particular, the Boston Tea Party of 1773, stands out. In protest against the British-imposed Tea Act, American colonists, dressed as indigenous people, dump an entire shipment of tea into the Boston harbor. This bold act of defiance was not just a protest against a single tax, but a symbolic rejection of British authority, pushing the already strained relations to a breaking point and catalyzing events that would change history forever. This clash led to confrontations and an incident that marked the beginnings of the American Revolutionary War. Fast forward to the tumultuous year of 1775, a year that would become a defining chapter in American history. The British government, acting on intelligence that alleged hidden weapons in Concord, a town about 30 kilometers from the contentious city of Boston, set in motion a chain of events that would lead to a confrontation of monumental significance. With British troops stationed in Boston since the infamous Boston Tea Party incident, the order was issued to seize these arms in Concord. However, this task would prove far from straightforward. As the British troops marched towards Concord, they encountered armed American residents in a town along their route. Unknown to the British, the American inhabitants had received advance warning of the British approach and had assembled to thwart any attempted intervention. Though the armed settlers were not eager to initiate hostilities, the British sought to confiscate their weapons for potential future use. Naturally, this demand was met with fierce resistance, resulting in a tense standoff that culminated in a single gunshot. The origin of this fateful shot remains a historical mystery, shrouded in the chaos of the moment. Regardless of who fired the first shot, the reverberations were immediate and profound. A skirmish ensued, igniting a fierce firefight between the British forces and the American settlers. The exchange of bullets left 8 American residents dead and a sole British soldier among the fallen. This clash would echo through history as the shot heard round the world, marking the outbreak of hostilities that would escalate into the American Revolutionary War. Despite this outbreak of violence, it's important to note that the Americans were not entirely unified in their desire for full-blown independence at this juncture. While some colonists fervently believed in the inevitability of breaking free from British rule, others retained a strong sense of British identity and opposed the idea of severing ties. Beyond the political elite and malicious, the broader society was deeply affected by the conflict. Ordinary citizens faced hardships, with disruptions to trade, property damage, and the constant fear of warfare. Additionally, espionage became a crucial part of the war effort. The famous Culper spy ring, among others, played a vital role in gathering intelligence for the American cause, demonstrating that battles were not just fought with guns and cannons, but also with information and secrecy. Caught in the middle of all this turmoil were those who wavered between the two camps, unable to definitively choose a side. This internal conflict and societal upheaval within the colonies would shape the trajectory of the impending conflict. The war was now an undeniable reality. Yet the nascent United States found itself ill-equipped to face the might of the British Empire. The American Army, an assortment of volunteers, militia, and even civilians, was an unconventional force plagued by shortages of soldiers and supplies. In stark contrast, the British boasted one of the world's largest and most skilled armies. The early battles showcased this disparity, with the American forces experiencing a series of defeats. Only a mere 2 months after the bold Declaration of Independence, New York, one of the major port cities in the United States at the time, fell to the British forces. The question hung heavy: had the Americans overstepped, daring to challenge the powerful British Empire? Within this atmosphere of doubt, a pivotal figure emerged from the shadows to rekindle the flickering hopes of the American forces. That figure was none other than George Washington, a stalwart leader whose tactical acumen and unwavering resolve would steer the American forces through some of their darkest days. Throughout the war, Washington faced immense challenges, from managing a ragtag army with limited resources to maintaining morale in the face of overwhelming odds. But his leadership shone brightest during decisive moments. On a bitterly cold Christmas night in 1776, Washington showcased his strategic genius, recognizing the vulnerability of the Hessian mercenaries aligned with the British. He orchestrated a daring and audacious plan. With his troops, they embarked on a perilous journey across the ice-choked Delaware River, despite the risk of hypothermia and drowning. Their audacious counterattack at Trenton caught the Hessians off guard, securing a much-needed victory for the beleaguered American forces. This triumphant maneuver didn't just mark a military success, it was a turning point in the war, boosting the flagging spirits of the American rebels and showcasing Washington's prowess as a military leader. The Battle of Trenton stands as a testament to Washington's ability to seize opportunity, even in the direst circumstances, symbolizing hope in a time of despair. But the war was far from over. The pivotal year of 1777 would bring forth a turning point that would ripple across continents. The British devised a two-pronged strategy aimed at splitting the United States and securing their foothold. One force would advance south from Canada, while another would push north from New York, aiming to converge along the vital waterway of the Hudson River. The goal was to serve communication and transportation lines, effectively choking off American resistance. However, the complexities of communication and coordination proved to be the British Achilles' heel. The force from New York failed to rendezvous as planned, leaving the Canadian force to advance alone. Yet, this endeavor was met with unexpected American resolve. In the form of a showdown at Saratoga, American forces gathered, bolstered by French assistance, to meet the British head-on. The tide of battle turned in favor of the Americans, as they soundly defeated the British in a pivotal clash. The Battle of Saratoga had profound implications beyond the battlefield. Not only did it mark a resounding American victory, but it also served as a catalyst for international involvement. France, viewing an opportunity to weaken their British rivals, seized upon the American success to join the fray as an ally. This move escalated the conflict to a global stage, as Spain and the Netherlands soon followed suit, aligning against the British Empire. The balance of power was shifting, and Britain was increasingly isolated in its struggle. As the war entered its later stages, the British recalibrated their approach, focusing their efforts on the southern theater of operation. The rationale was that pockets of loyalist sentiment in the south would be more amenable to British control. While early successes bolstered British hopes, the tenacity of the American forces and their fervor for independence would prove to be formidable obstacles. One strategic blunder in particular would seal the fate of the British campaign: the decision to establish a new base in the Virginia port city of Yorktown. was met with unforeseen consequences. The city's strategic importance, with its accessibility to both northern and southern regions of the United States, seemed advantageous to the British. However, this move would prove disastrous. Upon learning of British intentions, the Americans, led by Washington and bolstered by French naval support, launched a coordinated assault. A naval battle ensued, resulting in a French victory that solidified the blockade of Yorktown. As French naval power asserted dominance, British troops in Yorktown found themselves cut off from reinforcement and escape routes. Washington, along with French forces, moved swiftly to encircle the British, trapping them in a vice of inevitability. The climactic Battle of Yorktown unfolded with fierce intensity. The besieged British forces valiantly defended their position, but the combined might of American and French troops proved overwhelming. As days turned to weeks, it became apparent that the British situation was untenable. Faced with dwindling supplies and no prospect of relief, General Cornwallis, the British commander, made the painful decision to surrender. The surrender of Cornwallis and his troops marked a definitive turning point in the war. But beyond the immediate battlefield, the surrender at Yorktown reverberated across the Atlantic. The British public and government recognized that continuing the costly conflict was no longer viable. The once mighty British Empire had to concede to the reality that the American colonies had achieved an unassailable momentum towards independence. Before the colonies could fully operate as a cohesive nation, they experimented with governance through the Articles of Confederation, which served as the United States' first attempt at a national governing document. However, its limitations soon became apparent, paving the way for the drafting of the Constitution. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 formalized Britain's recognition, acknowledging the sovereignty of the United States of America, and allowing the young nation to forge its path forward. In a fitting testament to the intricate nature of historical causality, the American Revolutionary War had far-reaching consequences that extended beyond national borders. France's substantial financial and military backing for the American cause was driven by their aim to challenge their long-standing British rivals. However, this support placed a heavy strain on their own treasury. Coupled with existing domestic discontent, these financial pressures set the stage for the tumult that would culminate in the French Revolution. Just as nations today grapple with the consequences of their foreign investments and alliances, the impact of the American fight for independence was felt not just in the New World. It also shifted the course of history for old European powers, demonstrating the interconnectedness of global events, both then and now. The American Revolutionary War, driven by the resilience of its people and key figures, not only reshaped history, but also transformed a set of colonies into a global superpower. Beyond Washington's leadership, figures like Benjamin Franklin with his diplomacy, Thomas Paine with his pen, and Betsy Ross with her symbolic creation of the first American flag, all played crucial roles. As we reflect on this transformative period, remember that it's a testament to bravery, unity, and an unyielding pursuit of freedom. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. Take care and see you in the next video. Goodbye!